and welcome to Business 360. I'm Archana Solanki. Here are the headlines we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty hit a record high once again as bulls maintain the winning momentum. Nifty near 26,000. Sensex is also within the touching distance of 85,000. Israel Hezbollah continue to exchange strikes. Netanyahu says Israel will do whatever is needed in order to restore security in northern Israel. Hezbollah had earlier declared an open-ended battle of reckoning with Israel. Oil prices edge upwards. Beleaguered airline SpiceJet promises to restore its reputation after completing a 3,000 crore rupee fundraise. Chairman Ajay Singh says proceeds will be used to recover grounded fleet, acquire new aircraft and expand into new markets. Facing AGR dues of over 70,000 crore rupees, Vodafone Idea CEO says there's an understanding with the government on the merits of the case, which he believes is quite strong. Vodafone Idea shares rally after signing a 30,000 crore rupee deal with Nokia, Samsung and Ericsson for 4G and 5G equipment supply for 3 years. Prime Minister Modi meets Google Sundar Pichai, Nvidia's Jensen Huang and other major tech CEOs in New York. US and India sign an agreement to set up a fabrication plant to manufacture semiconductors for military use. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says India will not join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, dubbed as the world's largest trade deal. Goyal says it is not in India's interest to sign a free trade agreement with China. That's a CNBC exclusive. Aam Aadmi Party leader Atishi takes charge as Delhi Chief Minister, cites the Ramayana as she leaves the seat occupied by his predecessor Kejriwal vacant. Sri Lanka gets its first leftist president. Anura Kumar Dissanayake, popularly known as AKD, is sworn in as the nation's 9th president, vows to preserve democracy and clean public life. The 55-year-old leader faces the daunting task of tackling the country's economic crisis. Supreme Court sets aside an order from Madras High Court on child porn, calling it an egregious error. Top court rules storing and watching child porn is an offence, asks Parliament to amend the law and substitute the term child porn with child sexual, exploitative and abuse material. Critically acclaimed Hindi film Lapata Ladies is India's official entry to the Oscars. The Kiran Rao directorial is selected from a list of 29 films by a 13-member jury. All right, let's start with the market action. Sensex and Nifty hit fresh record highs in trade as bulls maintain the winning momentum. Sensex gained nearly 400 points to move closer to the 85,000 mark. The Nifty gained nearly 150 points and is now within the touching distance of 26,000. Mid-caps outperformed the blue chips. Prashant Nair is here with the market trap.
A decent follow-through day, although after the opening levels, the market did not do very much. It did not adder majorly or it did not lose majorly after that. So holding on to gains, the opening gains. The Nifty up on your screen, the Nifty Bank doing quite well. That made a new all-time high. Mid-cap index, small-cap indices also participating. Market breadth was not overwhelmingly one-sided, but more advances as compared to what was down. I'll start with large caps, which did well. Autos has been a feature on Friday. It was a feature today. Mahindra and Mahindra, big gains on Friday and follow-up today. Bajaj and Hero MotoCorp were the other auto winners. SBI did well. The insurers had sold off recently. Life insurance companies, SBI Life and HDFC Life are the two names I want to highlight which participated. ONGC and Bharti were the other gainers. On the losing side, as far as Nifty goes, there was ICICI Bank, which was a big winner on Friday. Divi's and Eicher Motors, which was down as well. Now, in the broader market, I'll start with what was up. Amber was a big winner. SBFC, Small Business Finance, 20% higher. Godrej Properties, Phoenix Cables, VIP Industries. There was Minda Corp, Skipper Limited, recent listing PN Gadgil, Edelweiss 140 plus, Aadhar Housing Finance, and there was something like a Snowman Logistics which participated on the upside as well. Some pullbacks coming through in Cochin Shipyard, down 4. IIFL was down about 4. Hoodco, Garden Reach, Concord Bio, which was a big winner on Friday. Natco Pharma and Sterling Wilson and Solar was down 5% in today's session. I mean, markets broadly holding on to the momentum and not letting any dips come in the way of what has been a very up and up kind of session for the last few days. Back to you.
Right, thank you, Prashant, for that. Oil prices edged higher, boosted by supply concerns. This as the market expected conflict in the West Asia to impact supply in the key producing regions. Meanwhile, gold prices extended gains to scale a record high today. Prices of the yellow metal continue to be driven by the momentum generated by the Federal Reserve's interest rate cut. Safe haven demand due to geopolitical risks in the Middle East also supported prices. SpiceJet has successfully raised 3,000 crores through its recently concluded QIP. The airline informed the stock exchange that the QIP was significantly oversubscribed by qualified investors. Madiha Mujawar joins in to take us through the airline's outstanding dues and multiple issues the airline is facing and whether the fundraise is enough to bring it back to health. Madiha, back to you.
Well, 3,000 crores is certainly a lifeline for SpiceJet that has been cash-strapped for a few years now. The airline plans to use these funds to revive its grounded fleet, acquire new aircraft, invest in technology and expand into new markets. That's the plan. In fact, Ajay Singh said that he aims to use the funds to revive or restore the airline's reputation for efficiency and reliability. Now, let's look at what the airline is staring at. Apart from salary payments, the airline hasn't paid Provident Fund for 2.5 years. TDS, which is deducted from employees' salary, is also not deposited. That comes to over 650 crores. Then there are several lessors which have taken the airline to courts for non-payment of dues as well as seeking their planes and engines back. Now, before the QIP, SpiceJet had disclosed that it owes a total of 3,700 crores only to the lessors. Then there are pending dues of oil companies as well as airports. We saw incidents in the last few weeks where SpiceJet flights were not allowed to take off due to non-payment of dues either to oil companies or airport operator. The fleet is down to less than 28 planes according to SpiceJet. The shrinking business has impacted its operations with flights down by 50% since January to just 2,700 flights in August. That, of course, has brought the market share down from 5.6% in January to 2.3% in August. So 3,000 crores is definitely not going to take away the airline's huge pile of dues and debt, but it could certainly give it a breather to get back on its feet and keep running.
Right, thank you, Madiha, for that. JP Morgan's head of telecom in the Asia-Pacific region, Ankur Rudra, has said that tariffs in India could rise by 10 to 15% in the next 12 months. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, he explained that this is because tariffs of entry-level phones have seen fewer increments.
The tariff increase this time has been slightly lower than what people were expecting, maybe leaves a bit more room to take another tariff hike, maybe another 12 to 18 months from now. Secondly, also the tariff increases have been a bit more graded. It's not equal at the lower parts. If you look at, for example, the entry-level phones or the feature phones, the extent of tariff increases is a lot lower, which makes it easier to absorb at those parts. And the tariff increases sort of tend to go up a bit more when you look at the smartphone segment. And of course, on the 5G side, the entry-level tariffs have been taken up even more. So the graded tariff increases this time does leave some room for another tariff hike. What we've currently built in is another 10 to 15% tariff increase next year. We haven't built in tariff hikes after that.
Chinese smartphone brand Xiaomi has asked the Competition Commission to recall its antitrust report on the company and Flipkart, which states that both the entities breached competition laws. As per a report by Reuters, Xiaomi claimed that the report contains sensitive information. They added that this information was supposed to be redacted before it was shared with the involved parties. It's the final day of Prime Minister Modi's US visit after the Quad Summit and a bilateral meeting with US President Joe Biden. The Prime Minister met top US business leaders. He met 15 CEOs of top American tech companies, including Alphabet's Sundar Pichai and NVIDIA's Jensen Huang in New York. He underscored India's potential to become a global partner in the semiconductor sector. PM Modi also signed an agreement with President Joe Biden to set up a fabrication plant to manufacture semiconductors for military use. The unit will be set up in Uttar Pradesh's Jewar. This is the first India-US semiconductor or fab cooperation of its kind.
The Prime Minister has been focused on transforming India with his Digital India vision. He pushed us to continue making in India, designing in India. We are proud to now make our Pixel phones manufactured in India. He is really thinking about how AI can transform India in a way that benefits the people of India. He challenged us to think about applications in healthcare, education, agriculture, and he's also thinking about the infrastructure of India, be it data centers, power, energy, and investing to make sure India can transition. And we are proud to be partnering with India. We are robustly investing in AI in India, and we look forward to doing more.
I've enjoyed so many meetings with Prime Minister. He's such an incredible student. And every time I see him, he wants to learn about technology, artificial intelligence, the potential and opportunity for India, the impact on India's society and industry. And so I was delighted to be here to talk about it. India, as you know, is also home of some of the world's greatest computer scientists. So this is a great opportunity. Artificial intelligence is also a new industry, a new manufacturing industry that's very important. And so I'm looking forward to partnering with India in a very deep way to make that possible. AI in a lot of ways is very complicated technology, but in the end, what it enables a country to do is take advantage of technology, take advantage of computers in a way that has never been possible before. And so AI really democratized computing. This is India's moment. You have to seize the opportunity.
India has ruled out joining the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. The deal, signed by 15 Asia-Pacific countries in 2020, including China, is the world's largest trade pact. It came into effect in 2022. In an exclusive interview with CNBC, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said that it is not in India's interest to be a part of a free trade agreement with China. He added that the deal does not reflect the aspirations of the country's micro, small and medium industries and farmers.
When I got into the Commerce and Industry Ministry in June of 2019, we were at the fag end of negotiations of the RCEP.
Yeah.
November was the day we were to all accept joining the RCEP.
Yeah.
So I got only about 3 or 4 months to really get a hang on what was happening. But very clearly I could see that it was not in the nation's interest. It was not in our farmers' interest. RCEP did not reflect the aspirations of our small and micro, medium industries, MSME sector.
Yeah.
And in some form was nothing but a free trade agreement with China. Because at that point of time, we already had an FTA with the ASEAN bloc of 10 countries. Mm-hmm. We already had an FTA with Japan and Korea. Mm-hmm. The Australia FTA was on the verge of finalization. Instead of finalizing that, we put that into the back burner and focused on RCEP.
Sure.
And New Zealand, we don't have much business interest. At that point of time, the total bilateral trade was about $300 million. Mm-hmm. So effectively, the only country left was China. And certainly nobody back home would like to have an FTA with a non-transparent economy, very opaque in its economic practices, where both trading systems, political systems, the economy, the way it is managed is completely different from what the democratic world wants.
Right, shifting focus to the next story, which is Vodafone, telecom operator Vodafone Idea's shares surged after the company inked a $3.6 billion deal with Nokia, Ericsson and Samsung. The company will source telecom equipment over 3 years for 4G network expansion and 5G rollouts. Vodafone Idea has said that this deal is the first step towards rollout of its 3-year capex plan of over $6 billion. This comes just days after the Supreme Court dismissed the telecom firm's curative plea seeking a review of its AGR dues worth 70,300 crore rupees, including the interest cost. Remember, in 2019, the Telecom Department estimated Vodafone Idea's AGR dues to be a little over 58,000 crore rupees compared to the company's assessment of 21,500 crore rupees. The company has claimed that the DoT made a calculation error while calculating the dues. In a new conference on a conference call with investors, Vodafone Idea CEO Akshay Mundra has said that there is an understanding with the government on the merits of the case, which he believes is quite strong.
We have been engaging with various senior government officials. While
while there was a hope that the courts will obviously consider the petition, the fact that the court has not done so means that the now action and responsibility in some ways falls squarely along with the government. The government has since that time asked us to put together a comprehensive view of what we believe would be the right mechanism and requests that we can make for addressing this challenge, because I think there is a very clear understanding in the government that it should not be fair to have to ask us to pay for something which is a calculation error.
Right, on to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. The government is considering a turnaround plan to revive 3 public general insurance companies. Sources have said that the centre plans to turn these companies into profitable units via fundraise or through infusing capital. Sapna Das joins us with the details. Sapna, take us through the government's plan.
Well, it is likely that the government may actually reconsider some kind of a turnaround plan for the loss-making public sector insurance companies, non-life insurance companies, and some kind of a fundraise or a capital infusion from the government, is not completely ruled out. Now, obviously, the government at its end will make it conditional to the companies turning profitable. Now, among the 3 of them, basically National and United India Insurance, they still continue to post losses around close to 800 odd crores in Q1. Oriental, of course, has turned profitable last financial year itself. In first quarter also, I think over 90 crores of profit is what they have clocked. In the meanwhile, over the last few years, government has also infused money, close to 18,000 crores in the companies. But high claims ratio continues to be a concern, and basically it's the investment income that is basically sustaining the companies is what is the government's view as of now. Now, in the past also, the government had told these companies not to really pursue, motor and health insurance because they are loss-making businesses. However, what kind of an impact that has had, that is yet to be studied properly. The second aspect over here, of course, is also the fact that there are new accounting standards coming in for the insurance sector. So that may lead to some recalibration of the solvency requirements, and that may bring some relief to the non-life PSUs. However, IRDA has yet to notify the roadmap, so that is what we are waiting for. Finally, the estimates during the round is around 20 to 25 odd thousand crores could be the fiscal support that the companies may require if they have to strictly meet the IRDA regulations as far as capital and other conditions are concerned.
Right, thank you, Sapna, for that. It's time for a short break, but coming up next, Sri Lanka gets its first leftist president. Anurag Kumara Dissanayake, popularly known as AKD, is sworn in as the nation's 9th president. He's vowed to preserve democracy and clean public life. More details when we return. Welcome back. Anurag Kumara Dissanayake, popularly known as AKD, was sworn in as Sri Lanka's 9th president. The 55-year-old leftist leader beat his nearest rival, Sajith Premadasa, in a historic second round of counting, which included second preference votes. This time, Dissanayake contested as the candidate of the National People's Power Alliance. He had won 3% of the presidential votes in 2019. He is currently the leader of the JVP, a Marxist political party, which was at the forefront of the armed revolt against the Sri Lankan government in the late 80s. To take this discussion forward and to understand what's going to happen in Sri Lanka, I'm joined by 2 special guests on the broadcast. Rajiva Vijay Sinha, who's former Liberal Party MP and Sri Lankan minister, and Asanga Abegunasekara, who's author and geopolitical analyst. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for speaking to CNBC-TV18 and making time for us on this broadcast. Let's start with the most important question that the world wants to know. Mr. Vijay Sinha, what does a leftist president mean for Sri Lanka, and what do you think should be the immediate priorities for the new president as far as the economic struggles of Sri Lanka are concerned?
Well, I think the first thing is that there's a great sense of relief in the country that we have someone who will actually care about the worst of people. You know, we've had very top-down government for a long time, and there's been a sense for the last few years that the government did not represent the people, nor did Parliament. And it was going its merry way in claiming to solve our bankruptcy, but in actual fact just making things worse by borrowing more and more with no productivity at all. So I think that is the first thing that this government must do, which is to work out a way of dealing with our debt while at the same time engaging in productive, let's say, initiatives in sectors that can actually start earning us wealth again. You know, we've been run down into the ground for many reasons. Small and medium industries have been allowed to collapse. Agriculture is dying. There's been no sense of value addition to the agriculture we have. And no one's cared about it. We've had a bunch of idiots, ministers who are idiots. I mean, I remember the present speaker when he was Minister of Agriculture. I speak to him and said, I asked him what was being done about value addition. And he said, oh, yes, this is the year of value addition. No, we've done nothing. And they didn't care. All they wanted was their perks. The second most important thing, the country wants it and the economy wants it, is getting back the money that has been plundered. And I don't think that's at all difficult. I think there's a couple of swift prosecutions, something like the Thai law that allows you to take over assets that were not properly obtained and cannot be explained away, confiscation of property, to make sure that money does get into the coffers, at least a small proportion of the massive amounts that have been stolen in the last, let's say, 12 years.
Right, important points there. Mr. Sangha, do you want to weigh in? One of the biggest concerns right now is from the India perspective is that he's not an unknown entity here. He visited India in February and met the External Affairs Minister, Mr. S. Jaishankar. Where do you see India-Sri Lanka ties from here on? What can India expect from the new regime?
Well, first, I need to agree with what Professor Rajiv Vijay Singh mentioned. It is the economic woes, the serious economic crisis that got the popularity of Andhra Kumar Dissanayake. So, as you know, from early election 2019, it was a national security issue, but after Easter Sunday bombing. So this time it's about the economic condition, and he did address really well in his election. So coming to India, Sri Lanka, so India was one of the first to assist Sri Lanka during the crisis. That's with a amount which is long before IMF. So you would have to understand the relationship, as well as Sri Lanka's stability is really important for India also. And for mainly because of India's, concerns that are there in the island, mainly from China, as well as various other issues, geopolitical issues. So the relationship is really important. You see Indian ambassador basically congratulating him first, as well as developing this relationship. As you have clearly mentioned, the leftist, the Marxist party JVP from his 1980s, there's been ups and downs in their relationship. Talking on especially on the Indo-Lanka Accord and all that. So you need to rebuild that.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making time and speaking to CNBC-TV18 on this big international headline that we have been tracking, Sri Lanka's 9th president. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC-TV18. Stay tuned.